But that's why live streams also work really well, is because it is the closest thing that we could have with belly to belly, one to one interaction. And it was live and right now. And so I feel like some of those next best things in the written format that starts to go layers deep the more you have conversations with people is this new Threads app. Welcome to the Video Simplified podcast, where I help you simplify the video creation process to help you reach wider and connect deeper with the people that need you the most. From learning to use your camera to simplifying video strategies to help you grow your brand and share your vision using video. So let's jump right into today's episode. What is up, entrepreneurs? Welcome back to the Video Simplified podcast with me, your hostess, the mostess, Diana Gladney. So Threads is the new social app on with your new phone, hopefully. If you are feeling like another one, like, do we really need another social media app? No and yes. But I'm not here to debate whether or not we should have one. I'm simply here to discuss the fact that there is one. And as a content creating entrepreneur, video is our jam, but we also have other mediums and forms of communication, podcasting being one of them, as you're listening right now, but also communications and talking and the various ways that people prefer to be communicated to. So it's not really as if we have a choice as a content creating entrepreneur to say, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. I mean, granted, you do, but you also have to accept the repercussions that come back of that choice by saying you don't want to and deciding you're not going to do it or not going to participate or whatever. And if that's where your audience chooses to engage with the most, you accept the consequences of not doing what they would desire or prefer. So with this app in our hands, it makes me think differently about what are some different ways that we could engage in using this app, being a video first creator versus audio first or versus written first. What would this fit, or how would this fit into our video content creation process, or in, again, just enriching the conversations that we could have? Now, if you're not familiar with Threads, what this is an app by Instagram, puts you in the mindset of Twitter, but in a lot of ways better, especially in these early days of being able to have open conversations. You're seeing mass adoption, but you're not seeing like where you have viral posts yet. And I mean that yet with a very, 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 very small asterisk, in this way that we have seen with the other more established social media platforms. But I think all of those things are coming. But it's just fun right now. And fun has its own value in the great scheme of things. And just being able to go on a social app and relax reminds me of what Facebook used to be like when it first came out. And there was all kinds of apps that came after that. But being somebody that was with social media when social media was invented, which sounds really old, or like in the way like past forums where it was a very slow type communication, you had to refresh the page, then it would load up, and then you could continue that convo. That was very slow. But having like that instant back and forth, like I remember being in high school, and before you had, this is date myself, before you could be on Facebook, it was a college only platform. Somebody from a college university email, so actively in college, had to recommend you to the app. And that was the way that you got on Facebook. So that's how I got on Facebook, was through invitation. Me and my friends being on this platform that nobody else was on, in groups that nobody else was in, we would talk about teachers, we would crack jokes on each other. It was just fun to have those conversations. And that is what I feel like Threads brings back to the table. If you came in at the height of social media apps and strategies and hashtag all the things, then you kind of just are like, whatever. And it sucks. It really, honestly sucks. However, there's three different ways I think we could use Threads. And this podcast is not going to take super long, because to say I have a strategy completely outlined or I know a hashtag all the things would not be true. It takes being in the app, spending time in the app, and seeing how your audience spends time in the app before you really understand what is all of the ins and the outs. For me, it's three different ways. The first one is Q&A thread, which is having that back and forth of somebody either asking a question and you answering, or you initiating the question and letting your audience ask those questions to you. I think both are healthy ways to dialogue here, in the sense that if you say, what are your questions about creating thumbnails that get 8 or higher percentage click-through rate? Being more specific about that keeps some of the generalities of why they wouldn't reply out of the way. Meaning, if I just say, what are your questions about thumbnails? That's a really big, tall order. And sometimes that's too vague for them to know what to even ask. And depending on how new or inexperienced your audience is, they may not know what to ask. And that's a real thing, where they'll say, I don't know what to ask. So I'm so new, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that's annoying to the audience, because you probably have questions, but nothing that you can think of. That sometimes happens when I'm doing trainings and I'm listening to other speakers, and they'll say, what are your questions about X? Whereas the more specific you are, the more that they will rather still ask a question and say, well, this may be off topic, but what about X? Because it triggers them to think about said other thing. So be more specific with the questions, versus if you say, what are your questions about video content creation? Versus what are your specific questions, or what are your questions, I would take the specific out. What are your questions about creating with a camera versus your phone? Because now it gives them something to focus on, instead of just saying, what are your questions about creating videos? There's a ton of questions people can ask, and that's not a bad one. It's just about creating better ones. So a Q&A thread would be fire, and then going through as you're seeing stuff, which is something that I'm liking in the app. You can see posts by people that you don't follow, or I'm finding that it's learning stuff that I'm interested in, and it's probably based on how you engage with the app. So I'm learning what the social behaviors are on there. One of the ones that I've identified is the fact that based on the kind of content that I engage with, like the category, even if I don't follow that person back, or whether they're following me, or they're a follower of a friend of mine or somebody that I know that I'm following, it gets a little weird. But if you see that you're engaging, then you may also like X. So this is where you see on Amazon where people that bought this A device also have bought this. So those recommendation engines are already turning. And the earlier that you're on an app, so I would encourage you to start being an early adopter of different things in your niche, so that you can see what the social behaviors are, how people are engaging with the thing, and also what problems, frustrations that they're running into, especially if you're any kind of content creating entrepreneur. This makes sense no matter if you're in the coffee industry, if you're in some kind of commodities industry, if you make electronics, if you use electronics, if you're doing some kind of service. Be an early adopter of other stuff, so that you're always in the trenches of where your people are and the stuff that they care about. The other one is something that I'm using right now and already from stuff that I posted a few days ago. I made and batch record a bunch of content today using this technique, and that is to test out video content topics based on you putting this in threads. Now, this could work anywhere. If you are a Twitterer, if you prefer to use Twitter, if you write blog posts, or I like to use the community tab a lot more than I used to. I'm using it way, way, way more now, because this is the place for communication. One of the things with video that is really weird is that you really only have comments. Like, for example, YouTube used to have a DM space, and that used to be the Wild West, and it used to be pretty dangerous back there. It was the hood. So they got rid of it because it just became just a loss in the economy, social economy, if you will, of YouTube, because so many people had such a negative experience with it. You get disgusting and terrible messages back there, and people just saying all kinds of stuff. So it's like, I don't ever check DMs on YouTube because they were awful. Don't know why that was, but it just was. So now people are going to places like Instagram, and that's where I tell my community, I'm like, if you have something that is more detailed, or I'm saying to send me a picture about something, I've already started commenting, like tag me at Diana Gladney on Instagram in a DM or on Threads, because I can see what they're posting about, and I can reply, and it's much, much faster, especially if it's not something private. It can help somebody else out. So I'm like, send me a message, a DM on Instagram, which you could go in the request folder, or because there is no such thing on Threads, it's just easier, hit me up on Threads and then I can reply. So doing something like that where I can test video content ideas or how many other people are having issues with this too, and also seeing public conversations that people in the audience are talking about or things that they care about. Already I found like a new app that I'm testing and trying out, something I may want to talk about, you know, like for this week's gear fix or whatever the case is, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this will be cool. Guess where the idea came from? A community member and their post on Threads. So this is a great way to get in touch with your audience's mindset and just relearn. Sometimes if you think you know everything, it's a good way to fall behind. You want to keep your hand on the pulse of your people, and I think Threads is introducing a new way to do that in a very, very cool way. The third one is just conversations. The fact that it's not yet at the place where adpocalypse of ads being everywhere is a thing. The fact that you're not seeing a bunch of, I don't even want to say this word, thread influencers or threadfluencers or whatever it was called that we are already seeing pop up. It'll probably become a thing, but the fact that you're not focusing on so much strategy, on so much X, Y, and Z, like it's a place for you to just be. All of these different social platforms have their own way to engage, best practices. Right now, you're still having to uncover what all of these best practices are. And because of that, it's hard to say what's what. You know, like what I do see is people trying to bring on other social behaviors from other places. Like, it sounds bad to say, but it's like the because I'm posting a sexy photo, hit the like button, people are ignoring those posts. Like you see just like 2 or 3 likes or none after 3 and 4 hours because people don't want that anymore. They're just not wanting it there. Or you're seeing where people are saying, like, it's just bad form for where I'm seeing it posted. They'd be like, hey, if you need a thumbnail creator, hit me up or whatever. You know, it's just like people aren't wanting to be marketed to. Having a conversation would be better. For example, if you're a thumbnail editor or you did graphic design or whatever, find the stuff that people are talking about in regular conversations. And when you start showing up as a person that understands and you're helping people and you're providing value first because of the level that you can help people in conversations, way better. I did this immediately when I first started being on YouTube for the sake of being on YouTube, not to use it to, like I was doing just to post websites, just to post a video to my website so that it could just be like a free Dropbox. No, the whole point of me being on YouTube was to engage and understand, do the same stuff I'm doing right now, understand the social environment that I'm on. So I would see comments that are weeks and weeks and weeks old from creators that I follow, and I would just start replying to them because I knew the answer. It wasn't to get people to follow me back, but it was just to start engaging in the community that I am in, which is video content creation. And I'll still do this. I'll always give like the right of response, if you will, so it doesn't look like you're trying to spam without being spammy, like, oh, I know more, so come over here, kind of a thing. Like, that's lame. What it would be is just helping a fellow creator out, answering the question that somebody else already had because you know it. If they choose to follow you, if it aligns, then fine, but it's about community. And I think that's what the conversations and just this whole environment, this social environment on Threads being more about conversations, that helps a lot. And that's something that's been drastically missing. I think so much of social media has become where we're talking at one another instead of communicating back with one another. And Threads, as simple as it is, and I'm seeing some people push back as far as like, I think some people just have gotten tired with the whole social media marketing thing because it just feels like a fist fight and you're talking at people, talking at. The people that are winning on social are the people that have a relationship with their audience. And the way that you build a relationship is you have to communicate with them and you have to have trust with them back and forth. So if we're going to be doing more of this and going deeper with our audience, I used to say in all my videos, it's like to help you reach wider and connect deeper with the people that need you the most, which is the whole point of like the channel. Well, if we're going to be having that content that reaches deeper, Threads right now is the thing that reaches deeper and the deepest at the moment, even as a video content creator. Have your audience start to communicate with you there, because comments is a back and forth. You get lost in the sauce. Hell, I've had where I'm just like catching up to comments that was like a year ago for some of the stuff on the channel, because it's after it piles up, even with daily replies or weekly replies or every other day replies, it still piles up. So being able to have that back and forth, and that's all that it is communication. Bees Knees Hall of Fame. And I put that with an asterisk because I know that's going to change. I know there's going to be ads on the platform. I know that people are going to strategize to hell it to a point to where it doesn't feel normal. Like I see posts on Twitter, same post. It's been shared it feels like every 45 to 42 hours or something like that. And I mean, like it's set to like a timer. You know, that same post is scheduled to repeat itself so often. You're like, who's even managing this account, or is this a bot? And we've become so annoyed with the bot situation that people are tired of that. People desire to connect with other people. And I think some of the things that some of my other fellow creator friends pointed out is that it felt like what Clubhouse was in the middle of the pandemic, because everybody was stuck at home and siloed out. And now finally everybody could get to connect with one another using this that didn't matter if you had a podcast style microphone, didn't matter if your baby was crying in the background or your kids was playing or whatever. It didn't matter if you had sound effects. Like you didn't need anything. You just hit the button, mute, and talk. And I think that's what Threads is bringing back to all of this, is just the raw communication. And I don't think anything beats that. That's why I think videos work well. I think that's why podcasts work well. I think that's just where we've been finding social content just lacking like crazy. But that's why live streams also work really well, is because it is the closest thing that we could have with belly to belly, one-to-one interaction. And it was live and right now. And so I feel like some of those next best things in the written format that starts to go layers deep, the more you have conversations with people, is this new Threads app. And I'm curious to where it's going to go, what it eventually become. And will it stay as it is now, in that like it's a vibe right now, it's a feeling, it's just joy being on the app because it's no stress? Or will it eventually become like everything else, which it'll also become commoditized like most things, but right now it's not. So if you are a video content creating entrepreneur, which I would imagine if you're listening to this podcast, you are, this is a dope app to be on right now. This is the vibe of the space to be in creating content right now. And I think this is something you should not miss. Similar to like when Clubhouse first popped off or whatever, like I'm seeing my Instagram following come up. I know that's going to come back and trickle back to YouTube. I think it's becoming more and more important. I forgot my link in bio thing was only my book. And I have to change that back so that if people want to know where else can we talk video, obviously you can find me on YouTube. So that's where I'm going to leave it for this week's episode. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to put in the description of the YouTube video, if you're watching this now, for the video version of the podcast. And I'm going to put it in the show notes. Go to diana.link/message. Yeah, diana.link/message. And leave a voice memo letting me know your thoughts on Threads or what questions you have when it comes to the potentialities of using threads for your video content or what have you. Also, if you got a question about a podcast topic or something like that, I might just turn it into a video. No gear fix for this week, but we got a really, really, really good one coming next week. And as I love to end all of my podcast episodes, the winds of life blows on us all, but it is how you set your sails. So set your sails accordingly. With that, guys, a little bit passion. I'll see you on the next episode of the Video Simplified podcast. Take care. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode, but the value doesn't stop there. For more in-depth trainings, courses, and growing your brand using video, join the Video Simplified community at videosimplified.live.